Hello students. So let's start revising chemical bonding and the molecular structure. To give you an overview, we are going to discuss about the four theories. That is, first one is Kosellevi's approach of chemical bonding. Second, we are going to learn about valence shell electron pair repulsion theory, that is VSEPR theory. Third, we are going to learn about valence bond theory, valence bond theory, that is VBT. And fourth, we are going to learn about the molecular orbital theory, that is MOT. So importance of each theory you are going to understand as we proceed with the revision. So to start with, first theory is a Kosellevi's approach. So this theory told that there is two kinds of bond. One is covalent bond. There is a covalent bond, and the other is ionic bond. Covalent bond is bond formed by sharing of the electron. This bond is due to sharing of electron, and this is due to transfer of electron. So when we talk about a covalent bond, see, for any bond there should be either sharing or transfer, right? Without that there cannot be any bond. With respect to humans also, when we say that there is a bond between two people, there should be a sharing or some transfer should take place, then only that particular bond is going to remain. So similar concept here, what we can say is that covalent bonding. So in this covalent bonding, he said that if element is combining, okay, central atom or all the elements which are combining, the octet should be complete. Exception was the hydrogen, helium was the exceptions in that case. So here the theory is very simple, Lewis dot theory. Let's understand sharing of the electron in the covalent bonding. I'll discuss this in detail after some time. So first we'll take example of methane. Okay, this theory simply says, okay, it should have 8 electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, this carbon is having a valence electron. Let's talk about the valence electron. So this is totally based on the how many valence electron it is having. So carbon's electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2 and 2p2. So valence electron, there are 4 valence electron, and independently carbon is not satisfying its octet. It should have 8 electrons in the valence shell. So then here is the hydrogen, it is having 1 electron. This is the hydrogen, it is having 1 electron. This is the hydrogen, this is the electron of the hydrogen. So this carbon will share the electron, it will share the electron of each hydrogen. So now carbon is having 8 electrons. So hydrogen is the exception, it will attain a noble gas configuration to that of the helium. So here this is the kind of the bond which you will be able to see. Right, so one single bond is made up of 2 electrons, right? One single bond is made up of 2 electrons. So this is the structure, like this is what the idea about the bonding. We'll take more example. If you see sharing means this carbon is also the owner of the other 4 electron. That's why the carbon is having a 8 electron over here. This hydrogen is having 2 electron. That is what the exception with respect to hydrogen. We'll take one more example. Second example will be, we'll take chlorine, Cl2 molecule, right? Chlorine and another chlorine. Like every chlorine, if you see independently, it is having 7 valence electron. Atomic number for the chlorine is 17, and the electronic configuration for the chlorine is written this way: 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p5, and it is group 17. It is understood it is having 7 valence electron. right? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. You see that this chlorine is short of one electron. So from where it will take that electron? It will share the other chlorine's electron. It will share the other chlorine's electron. So there is a single bond. These two electrons will make a single bond between a chlorine and chlorine. This is the whole idea about the Lewis dot approach. We'll take some more examples. Like we'll take an example of the nitrogen molecule. Third example is a nitrogen molecule. We know that nitrogen and the nitrogen forms the triple bond, right? But the nitrogen, if you consider a nitrogen's valence electron, nitrogen, then here atomic number is 7 for the nitrogen. So it is 1s2, 2s2, 2p3. So there are 5 valence electron. So nitrogen's 5 valence electron, 1, 2, 3. It requires more 3 to complete its octet. It requires more 3 electron to complete its octet. So I'll show these electrons this way. Right, these 5 electrons are of nitrogen. This other nitrogen is also having 3 require 3 electron. So this is what the sharing will happen now. This nitrogen is also having 8 electron and this nitrogen is also having 8 electrons. So these electrons which are there, they will pair up. Right, they will be shared, and this is how the bonding, nitrogen molecule bonding will take place. Right, one more example. Okay, we'll take one more example. Like we'll take water molecule. We'll take a water molecule, H2O. Okay, simplest. So oxygen is having 6 electron, right? Oxygen is having 6 electron. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 electron means I am talking of the valence electron. Oxygen's atomic number is 8, right? So it is 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. Means valence electrons are 6 over here. It requires more 2. So it will take from the hydrogen. So this is the another hydrogen. So here this is the thing. Hydrogen is satisfied with a 2 electron, that is attaining the noble gas configuration to that of the helium. So this is the structure, right? Oxygen, hydrogen, hydrogen, and these are the 2 lone pair. Lone pair means here I am introducing the term lone pair. Lone pair means it is pair of electron not involved in bonding. Right, so this is what the lone pair, which is not involved in bonding. If you ask me, this is what the bond pair, these two electrons are a bond pair, or I can say that this is what the bond pair is. This is what the bond pair means. Bond pair means what? Bond pair by definition, it is electrons, pair of electron involved in bonding. Right, so this is what the covalent bond idea. With respect to Kosel-Lewis approach, there are certain limitations. We'll discuss that later. Now let's discuss about what is ionic bond. So ionic bond, when I say, it is a complete transfer of the electron. Ionic bond is the complete transfer of the electron. See, when ionic bond takes place, this ionic bond is due to transfer of the electron, right? Complete transfer of the electron. That is what the ionic bond is. But when it takes place, when electropositive element generally we say this way, electropositive element combines with electronegative element. Like for example, group 1, group 2, they are the most electropositive element. When they combine with a halide, which are the most electronegative elements of the periodic table, the compounds formed will be salts, or the ionic bond will be there. Like if I consider Na and the Cl, Na is a group 1, Cl is a group 17, right? So this is going to form an ionic compound. MgCl2, magnesium is group 2, which is highly electropositive. Chlorine is a highly electronegative element. This is going to form a salt. We can take an example of calcium chloride also. Right, so whenever there is a combination of the group 17 element with the group 1, that is most electropositive, and the electronegative, it is called as an ionic bond. The reason is as the electronegativity difference. See, there will be lot of electronegativity difference. Here the concept of the electronegativity will come. We'll relate it. We'll take a situation. Where different atoms I'll combine. Okay, different atoms I'll combine. A I am combining with B. A I am again combining with C. A I am combining with D. A I am combining with some element E. A I am combining with some element F. Just take. Okay, I will write the electronegativity difference. Although this is electropositive element, let's understand that electronegativity difference. I am just taking some value. Okay, just to make you understand. Let's say this electronegativity difference is 1 for this. Here also it is 1. Here also it is 1. And here also it is 1. Here also it is 1. And over here electronegativity of the, so it is not a difference. I am just marking the electronegativity of the A. So electronegativity of the B is something I am saying that here it is 2, here it is 4, here it is 6, here it is 8, here it is 10. Electronegativity of these atoms, right? They are different atoms, right? So what will happen in the first case, the placement of the electrons may be this way, because here it is more electronegative. Or I'll just write not plus, we'll just write these values, electronegativity values. Okay, these are not real values and these are not real atoms, but just saying that this is having more electronegativity than A. So electron will shift this way. So here this electron is of the carbon, so this electron of the A will be slightly going more towards that. Okay, here as we go down we see that electronegativity difference is increasing, right? It is increasing, difference is increasing, and the time will come it is so high that this sharing electron is almost in the side of the other atom. The sharing electron is almost in the side of the sharing atom. It means it is no more a sharing, it is a complete transfer of the electron. Means for example, Na and a Cl, if there is a combination, what does the Na do? Na loses its electron and chlorine gains electron. Why does it happen? It happens because chlorine by losing electron will attain a noble gas configuration. Sodium by losing electron will attain noble gas configuration, and chlorine by accepting an electron will not attain a noble gas configuration. So there is a complete positive and the negative charges. So there is a force of attraction between positive and negative, and that is how the ionic bond is formed. This is one example. Yes, this is the thing. See, when it is about a ionic bond, we show a complete positive and a complete negative. But if we take a polar covalent bond like HCl, we will show partial negative, partial positive, because there is no complete transfer. It is just a sharing of the electron. So in this case, we are going to show this way. Here in the ionic compound, we are going to show it this way. So this is covalent. Just comparing, this is covalent and this is ionic. Okay, this is the thing about the Lewis dot approach. Due to polarity in bond, there will be a dipole moment for this. Okay, so let's discuss a dipole moment mu for a molecule. Okay, let's take a simple example of HCl. This is partially positive, this is partially negative, because chlorine is electronegative. So dipole of this will be represented this way. This is a positive part, this is a negative part. This is how the dipole of the HCl will be represented. See, dipole moment is a vector quantity. It is a vector quantity. It has a magnitude as well as direction. So dipole moment mu is given by charge multiplied by distance. So I will write this as a Q. So this Q over here will depend on, in case of atoms, it will depend upon a electronegativity difference. Okay, I'll just write this Q into distance d. So this d is a bond length. We can say d is a bond length. Okay, d represents a bond length. GTH, LEN, bond length, and Q represents a charge separation. It represents charge separation in a molecule. Means here charge separation, it will depend upon the charge separation. Means it will depend on electronegativity difference. It will depend upon electronegativity difference. Like more is the charge separation, more will be a value of the Q. Okay, and bigger is the length, and bigger will be a bigger is the length, means bond length I am saying, bigger will be this d. So here what we can understand for this, okay, charge into distance. Okay, units, let's talk about the units also. What would be the units of this? I'll write here units. Unit of the charge is coulomb and this is meter, right? This is unit of the dipole moment is. So there is a coulomb meter, right? This is 1 coulomb meter. 1 coulomb meter is also is equal to or we'll write this how the d by unit, okay, how the d by unit and the coulomb meter is related. That is the value is 1 d by, I'll just write here I'll write 1 d by is equal to 3.3365, okay, 564, okay, 564, just remember this, 564 into 10 raised to minus 30 coulomb meter. Okay, this will help you for a conversion. Okay, this is very important unit, you should know. Okay, let's take some examples. Okay, what would be a dipole moment? I said it is not just a scalar, it is a vector quantity. It is not just a scalar quantity, it is a vector quantity, means it will depend upon the direction also. So the question may be like, one more thing I wanted to clear over here is that if we take the molecules like HF, then HCl, HBr, HI, okay, among this which will have the higher dipole moment? If you see over here in this case, the electronegativity down the group, electronegativity decreases, right? And you see that bond length will increase down the group, a bond length is going to increase, means bond length increases down the group, right? Means if I want to represent a hydrogen fluorine atom, I'll this is a hydrogen atom, this is a hydrogen atom, okay, this will be a fluorine atom. Let's write it this way, okay, this will be a fluorine atom. Okay, again this is a hydrogen atom, this will be a chlorine atom, this is a hydrogen atom, this will be a bromine atom, right? This is hydrogen atom, this will be a iodine atom, still bigger. I shall show it's still bigger, means you are understanding, like this is a bond length, like bond length is increasing, means one factor mu is d into q or q into d. So d is increasing and q is increasing and q is decreasing. So what will happen to the dipole moment? Is it going to remain same for this? No, we have to consider what is dominant over here is the q is always dominant, means dipole moment is going to decrease, because that's what the rule we follow. Remember that although d is increasing, q is decreasing at much faster rate, okay, comparatively. So we will take a q as a dominant factor. We'll take some examples over here. So here are the certain values of the dipole moments for different molecules are given. See over here, this is fluorine. Okay, so let's understand why it is 1.85 for water and why it is 0 for all these, both these two molecules. Okay, see water molecule, how it will be oriented? It will be oriented this way. There will be a lone pair on this. Okay, but here, if I want to represent a dipole moment of this, then it is this. This is negative and this is positive. So they are at certain angles, okay, and then there is no resultant same of the same magnitude. There is no any resultant of the same magnitude dipole moment. So they will add up. These dipoles are going to add up. That's why you are going to get this value, this molecule will have some dipole moment, that is 1.85 dpi. Now beryllium fluoride, if you consider a beryllium fluoride, it is this fluorine and this is fluorine. This is linear, okay, because there is no lone pair of electron. It is there are lone pair of electrons no on this, okay, that's why it is bent. Here this is linear because there is no lone pair of electron. So the direction of the movements, dipole moment will be this way. So both the dipole moments are opposite, exactly opposite to one another. So dipole moments will get cancelled. So that's why mu will be equal to 0 over here. And for the BF3, if we consider, then it is this fluorine, and fluorine. Again, the dipole moments are oriented exactly to one another, exactly with one another at a degree of how much? It is 120 degree. So here also there is a pure cancellation of all the dipole moment. Therefore mu will be equal to 0. This will happen, this similar thing, pure cancellation of the dipole moment will happen if we consider molecules like CCl4, right? It means how the molecules will be of the CCl4. I'll write over here CCl4 structure. The carbon, it will be tetrahedral. It will be a tetrahedral, Cl, and Cl. All the Cl will be oriented in a direction, will be having a tetrahedral angle, and this will be a pure cancellation of all the dipole moment. But that won't be a case with a CHCl3, because there won't be a pure cancellation of the dipole, because let's say this is Cl, and this is hydrogen. It will have a dipole moment this way. But the other one, the resultant one, is not going to cancel this. Okay, so that's why here for Cl3 mu is not is equal to 0. Here mu will be is equal to 0. So one more example. Okay, we'll take some more example. We'll take this. There is an NH3 molecule. There is NH3 molecule and NF3 molecule, right? In between a nitrogen and hydrogen, there is hardly any electronegativity difference. So what we can say, the value for this is given to be 4.9 into 10 raised to minus 30 coulomb and meter. Okay, for NF3 it is given mu value 0.80 into 10 raised to minus 30 coulomb meter. This is what the value for the both these things are given, both this compound. But why it is so high over here and why this is so low even after being having a highly electronegative element? So let's understand this. See, nitrogen, the lone pair will be there. There will be a lone pair. Lone pair dipole moment is oriented in which the lone pair is oriented. Negative part is always shown where it is oriented. So these are the three hydrogens. These are the three hydrogens. So what will happen here? This is nitrogen is electronegative. So here the dipoles are not getting cancelled. They are getting added up because this is a positive part. Hydrogen is a positive part. Okay, but that is not the case with the NF3. NF3, there will be a lone pair like this. There will be a lone pair like this, and there will be a fluorine over here. Fluorine is more electronegative than nitrogen. Yes. So what will happen? Dipole will be oriented this way. Dipole will be oriented this way, right? So here what will happen is that a partial cancellation, there will be a partial cancellation of all the dipole moment. That's why it is resultant will be less than this. So this is the whole idea about the dipole moment. Let's take one problem and we'll understand this in more depth. Okay, question is, which of the following pairs of the molecule will have permanent dipole moment for both the members? Okay, so we have to check which will have mu is not is equal to 0. Silicon fluoride, first option will take silicon fluoride and NO2. Silicon fluoride is group 14 element, same, it will have the similar bonding like that of the carbon forms with a methane or with a fluorine, carbon form with a hydrogen or with a fluorine. It is this way, group 14, no? 4 valence electron. So this is fluorine and the fluorine. The dipole moments are oriented this way because fluorine is more electronegative than that of the silicon. There will be a cancellation here. Mu will be is equal to 0. Same way NO2. NO2 structure is will be structure this way, and it will be resonating structure. Okay. So question asked is, we'll have a permanent dipole moment for both the members. So here NO2 is a band structure. NO2 is a band structure. There will be a lone pair of electron on this. Okay, so band structure here, there is no mu is not is equal to 0, right? Then NO2 here mu is not is equal to 0. And what about CO2, carbon dioxide? Carbon dioxide is linear structure. Carbon dioxide is linear structure. Here also there is pure cancellation of the dipole moment, mu is equal to 0. And then there is a ozone also, because NO2 and CO2 we have found that this is 0 but other is not 0. So option A and B are not the answer. We want where both are not is equal to 0. So NO2 is not is equal to 0. And what about ozone? Ozone is also a band structure this way, right? Ozone is also a band structure this way. It is also having a dipole moments are not exactly cancelling one another. So answer is option C, because we know that in silicon fluoride carbon dioxide mu will be is equal to 0. That's it. So next is limitations of the octet theory. We'll do this quickly. The first limitation is that incomplete octet of the central atom. First limitation is incomplete octet of central atom. So even after this theory was proposed, there was certain molecule which was existing in which there was an incomplete octet. Example like lithium chloride. Then there was a beryllium hydride, BCl3. BCl3 is another example where incomplete octet was there for the central atom. Like here lithium and chloride, if I consider, earlier I said exception is the only hydrogen where it will attain a noble gas configuration to that of the helium, right? But lithium is the one, here the octet is not getting complete. Here the chlorine, this is 7 and this is 8. The octet of the chlorine is getting satisfied. Lithium is having how many electrons? 3 electrons. 1, 2, 3, right? This is third electron is of the lithium and this is 4. But even after sharing, lithium's octet is not getting satisfied. Means it is not having a 8 electron. This is one more thing. Now beryllium hydride, if you consider, this is beryllium, this is hydrogen. So hydrogen is having 2 electrons, but beryllium is again having just 4 electron in this case. Beryllium is having just 4 electrons. That's why beryllium is also incomplete octet over here. Like if you consider a boron is forming a 3 bonds like this with a chlorine and the chlorine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. If you see the sharing pattern, then it is boron is having just 6 electrons in the valence shell, right? Chlorine is having 8 electron, but boron is just having a 6 electron. Again, these compounds were existing and which is violating the postulates given by a Kozal-Lewis approach. Then odd electron molecule. There were certain odd electron molecules also. Second limitation was odd electron molecule. Odd electron molecule. So odd electron molecules like this was the molecule which was not having odd electron there was, so it is also not satisfying the octet. So this 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? This nitrogen is not satisfying the octet. NO2 molecule. This is oxygen, here it is O. This is also an odd electron molecule where this is not satisfying the nitrogen is having not satisfying the octet. That is what the simplest thing we can say. It is having an odd electron like 7 in the outermost shell. Then expanded octet. Third limitation was expanded octet. Expanded octet. There was some molecule found like PF5 was the molecule, SF6 is the molecule where the octet of the central metal is expanding more than 8. It was having like it will have 7, even if you consider in a H2SO4 like PF5. PF5 means what? It is going to form a bonds fluorine, one above, one below. So it is forming 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Phosphorus is having 10 valence electron around it, right? It is expanded, octet is expanded. So SF6 if I consider, then this is fluorine, one above, and this is one below. So this all 4 fluorines are in one plane. We'll discuss that in a valence electron pair repulsion theory, but see the electrons how it is. It is having 12 electrons in this case. H2SO4, it is this way, sulfur, OH. It is forming how many bonds? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, sulfur is having 12 electrons. This is what the expanded octet. And lastly, it does not account for the shape of the molecule. Okay, shape of the molecule, this theory does not account for, it does not tell anything about shape of the molecule. So to understand the shape of the molecule, we are going towards a new theory, that is valence shell electron pair repulsion theory. Okay, from next lecture we'll start with this theory.